What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down what the news data and technicals are telling us about the overall market, how this may affect NIO, what's going on with tomorrow because we have PPI coming out and also initial jobless claims, and also what the technicals are telling us and why we could actually see more downside for the markets very soon. And before I break anything down about this, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NEO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 5 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is down 5.36% for the day. And one of the things I warned you all about was this structure right over here. I'm going to show you this. I've been talking about this for the last couple of trading days. Also, since like the very end of March, I was showing you guys how this was looking like a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder could develop. And so far, this is still very valid, this head and shoulders formation. The left shoulder formed, the head formed, and I told you all NIO would get a nice bounce. Remember, I made that video just a couple of days ago. NIO got the bounce yesterday. We got this really nice pump all the way up here. And I told you guys I wasn't too sure about how this would play out depending on CPI. But then I told you the odds favored downside if the structure were to continue to develop, and also based off what the Fed was telling us. And what happened? NIO came all the way back to the neckline. Very interesting stuff. So now NIO is testing this $9 area. If it breaks, there's going to be this gap fill down in the very high eights, and this thing will creep its way all the way back down. Now, whether or not this breaks will depend on the markets and also the data coming out tomorrow. So I'm going to break all of that down for you and talk about what could actually happen to NIO stock. Now, to start us off, though, we had CPI that came out. Basically, CPI overall was showing a cooler number at 5%, or like 5.1% or something like that. But then the core CPI was actually up compared to the previous month. Core was up to 5.6%. Now, you might think this is good. This is actually not good news for us, because what this tells us is food and energy. At least this is just based off the data. I don't want to say this objectively. I'm just talking about what the data is telling us. Based off the data, food and energy are driving CPI down overall. But core CPI without food and energy, this is actually going up, which tells us energy is playing a big role in why CPI ended up dropping. You could actually see the data right here showing this. You could see food was actually going down to some degree, and so did energy right here. And this is very important because when you think about it, inflation is still going up for different sectors. Just energy did slow down according to the data for the month of March. So the question is, what's going to happen in the future now? And what I do see as being very concerning for the Fed is, because inflation is still so hot, they have to continue to raise rates. They may give us another 25 basis point rate hike. And then you have to consider OPEC Plus is going to be cutting oil production by around 1 million barrels a day, or even more than that. That's going to once again drive fuel up even more. So going into the summer, there's a risk of another big spike in inflation, and we could see another big push to the upside. We should be very careful. Now, once again, what else was bearish for the markets was Federal Reserve members and staff are saying that a mild recession is now likely. Now, did Jerome Powell say this? Not necessarily, but other members are saying we could be entering a recession. It's very likely. It's quite likely. A mild recession could likely come. So there's this big shift away from the whole soft landing narrative that Jerome Powell was giving to us over the last few months. He kept saying the soft landing is possible. Don't worry, everything's under control. And now their Fed speakers finally saying the recession is likely coming. And I believe we could already be in it, right? Seeing how the economy is contracting already, seeing demand slowing down, the US could already be in one. And that's likely going to affect the markets either starting now or even over the next few months. Now, looking at this, I want to warn you all about something else. Actually, before I talk about this, let me just talk about the data, and then I'm going to talk about that. So for Thursday, which is tomorrow, we have PPI coming out before the market opens. This is similar to CPI, except from the producer side. It's not as significant in the eyes of investors, but it is still very important. We also have initial jobless claims before the market opens. We want this to be hot. We want a lot of initial jobless claims. We want pain from the employment sector. Looking at last week, there is a good chance this is going to be very close to forecasts because we did start to see this going up, which is good for the stock market. Not good for the economy, it's good for the stock market, right? The market wants pain. And then on top of that, when it comes to PPI, we want this to be very close to forecast. This is like the inflation rate from the producer side. Instead of CPI being from the consumer side, this is just from the producer side. And this is so important because if this is too high, this could also have a negative effect on the markets. So we'll just see what PPI gives us. Once again, very, very important stuff. And tomorrow is just mainly the data day. There's not too much data coming out. We have some manufacturing data and stuff like that, and a couple of Fed speakers tomorrow, but nothing as significant as Thursday. But here's the thing about Friday. So Thursday is the big data day with PPI and initial jobless claims. For Friday, we have some massive, massive earnings coming out. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to try to zoom in just a little bit. So on Friday, look at Friday right here. We have JP Morgan Chase, big bank, Citi, big bank, Wells Fargo, PNC, BlackRock. Lots of big companies and huge banks are going to be reporting earnings. This is going to be very important for the stock market. If they do horrible, the market's going to tank. The market's not going to like it. But if they do okay, if they surprise, the market could still hold up a lot better. I just wanted to inform you all about this because so much is going on. For NIO, all right, NIO is actually excited to share that it's going to participate in the Shanghai Auto Show 2023, once again giving them a lot more exposure to more audiences. I consider this awesome news. I'm very bullish on NIO longer term. For the short term, however, I do see more downside coming. We dropped on a higher than average volume at 48 million. And then on top of that, the short volume is starting to uptrend. It's actually making higher lows. We're seeing more shorting going on for NIO. And on top of that, even though the price price ratio is kind of low, we have to watch out for earnings. They missed a couple of times in the last couple of earnings. NIO's margins still need a lot of help during times like this. Thursdays tend to be bearish days for NIO. I'm sorry, bullish days are only up 51% of the time, but not too great. Fridays tend to be only green 53% of the time. But I want to note that the shorting on NIO has been slowing down, so that was a positive thing, but this could change when the data comes out for the next couple of days. Here's what's concerning about the markets. SPY is downtrending. We have a crossover on the PPO, but also, check this out. The price, I think I'm doing this wrong. It's right here. So the price basically, look at the price. The price went up. See this? See the top here compared to this top? The price went up. The price made a higher high. But look at the MACD and the signal line. They went lower. Look at the RSI, it went lower. We have a massive divergence that's forming and a triple top technically. This is like the first top, the second top, and the third one. And right now it's looking like we have some bearish signals developing. The same thing's on NVIDIA and many other stocks out there. It looks like we're getting ready to downtrend from here. Could we pop a little bit tomorrow since we dropped kind of significantly today? It is possible for us to try to bounce a little bit and then continue dropping. I do think we're going to retest 409 tomorrow, but I'm going to be very careful because more downside could come depending on the data. And even if we hold up tomorrow, I'm going to be even more concerned because of the bank earnings on Friday. I also want to note something else that's interesting. Look at what SPY is showing us right now. Yes, people were talking about this inverse head and shoulders right here. Yes, it did play out for the most part, but there's no confirmation that we could actually break above this like 416 level. And then because we haven't, we have this left shoulder that formed a slanted formation of this head and shoulders. The head is right here, and we could be forming a right shoulder. And what's interesting is right here, I know it's a little hard to see, I apologize guys, but right here, okay, right here, where the right shoulder is, we're getting sell signals now. We're getting bearish signals developing. That's very interesting stuff. All right, so there's a chance we could just start coming down because of earnings. Maybe inflation starts to go up during the next reports. maybe things are just not going to look as good because of the fact that the markets are once again getting ready for a possible recession. I think the market doesn't believe it yet, but there may be more signs of it coming, and that could actually shake the markets. Also, energy prices are going to be going up. That's not good for the markets. And if sentiment starts to shift, this could actually start to bring us down as we have sell signals developing. All right, so be very careful. If SPY starts tanking, the QQQ is also going to likely start tanking. I'm not talking about tomorrow, by the way. I'm not saying we're going to crash tomorrow. I think the market could hold up a bit, but I do believe soon a lot of downside is coming. Look at the QQQ. We're about to get a crossover right here on the MACD and the signal line crossover. Overall, there's not really a divergence forming. I'm not really seeing it, but I am seeing a big slowdown coming. There are a lot of gaps starting to get filled. It might bounce tomorrow a little bit, retest like 315, and then continue to come down. Maybe going into the next couple of days, especially when bank earnings come out. And then we also have the VIX, which is flat, but the VIX, once again, it held 18.25 so far, and it's still trying to hold up. If the VIX gets that bounce, this would happen because of the market dropping. And the dollar is still flat, so I'm not seeing a whole ton with the dollar yet. We don't have confirmation of the dollar being the big, you know, the big thing that causes the market to drop. But until then, we just have to be patient. But what I'm seeing for NIO is this. NIO tomorrow is going to fight for $9. She might try to bounce off of it a little bit here and there, but overall, it might just be a small bounce and she might just continue to break down and fill the gap down in the high eights. So I'm predicting that NIO is likely going to start coming down to the eights and get closer and closer to filling this gap down here at 8.75. I believe NIO will most likely do that, and overall, the head and shoulders looks like it's most likely going to play out. Might try to bounce tomorrow off 9, but if it ends up failing by the time either tomorrow or by bank earnings, then NIO is likely going to come all the way down. We could see this thing enter the 8s very soon and break below 8.7. All right, so I thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long term is still incredibly bright. And one last thing before I end it, I actually have a new merch shop for you guys if you're interested in buying shirts that say to the moon, or we have options or hoodies and long sleeve shirts and also tank tops. If you're interested in buying them, custom merch by me, Rey-Jay, then you can check out the link below. It should be either above or below the comment section, depending on where you're looking. It would really help this channel if you guys did check it out. But once again, it's your choice. Anyways, thank you for listening. NIO to the moon, and the long term is still very, very bright. Thank you, and peace out.